What do you do when the threat isn't in front of you? When it's dispersed, hidden, or moving faster than you can follow? That's where the next real Sherlock comes in.
Quick question. When was the last time you trusted your memory? But your memory without checking a device. Most people don't lose intelligence. They lose discipline of attention. MindForge is a structured training system that is designed to rebuild focus, recall, and your mental stamina, but to do so in just 10 minutes a day. No productivity hacks, no dopamine tricks, no supplements you need to swallow, just cognitive conditioning. So if you want your mind to feel sharper within a week, omniscient-insights.com/mindforge, or right there. Train your mind like it matters.
So what have we got? We've got lessons in how to see, how to prove, how to infiltrate, how to trace, disappear, systemize, and survive violence. But Sherlock Holmes doesn't just chase criminals down in the streets. He tracks them across cities, across borders, across time. Which raises a different kind of problem. What do you do when the threat isn't in front of you? When it's dispersed, hidden, or moving faster than you can follow? That's where the next real Sherlock comes in. Not a scientist, not a fighter, but a master of information flow. And his name was Ignatius Pollaky. Just imagine trying to track an international criminal network in the 1870s. No phones, no databases, no email, no surveillance cameras. Now imagine doing it using newspapers. Pollaky did exactly that. He turned the humble classified advertisement, the so-called agony aunt columns, into covert communication systems. Messages that are and were hidden in plain sight. Signals that only the intended reader would understand. Long before intelligence agencies formalised tradecraft, Pollaky was already running a distributed information network. Publicly. Ignatius Pollaky was a private investigator operating in Victorian London, and he was famous. Not that that matters, but he was so famous, in fact, that he was mentioned by name in a Gilbert and Sullivan opera, which tells you just how embedded he was in popular culture. Pollaky spoke at least 6 languages that we can confirm. He specialised in international cases, fraud, missing persons, criminal tracking, and that was at a time when borders were bureaucratic nightmares, even more so than today. And instead of relying on physical pursuit, Pollaky relies on connections, informants, correspondence, coded communication. He didn't hunt criminals directly, he let information come to him. Now, again, Pollaky isn't name-checked by Conan Doyle, in the same way Bell or Barton Wright are. But his influence is arguably unmistakable. Sherlock Holmes constantly uses newspapers or the classified ads or letters or telegrams or informal networks. He doesn't just read for news, he reads for signal. That habit, the idea that public information contains a private meaning, that's Pollaky's work. Where Bell taught Holmes how to observe people, Pollaky taught him how to observe systems. Now, Pollaky's defining skill wasn't secrecy. It was selective attention. He understood that most people drown in information because they don't know what they're looking for. Pollaky did. He treated newspapers not as content, but as traffic. Who's communicating? Who's responding? What language repeats? What phrases only make sense to a specific audience? This is the same principle Holmes uses when he says, you see, but you do not observe. Pollaky observed the flow of things. And once you understand flow, you can predict movement. That's intelligence. What Pollaky did was revolutionary. because it reverses the direction of investigation. Instead of chasing suspects, he let them reveal themselves. By watching how information moved, he could infer which networks were active, who was coordinating with who, what activity was escalating, when silence itself was meaningful. That's why Pollaky feels modern. Because today intelligence is less about secrets and more about pattern recognition, but at scale. And Pollaky is doing all that by hand. His lessons are everywhere for those that are open to the information. So lesson 1 should be that open information is not harmless. Most people think secrecy hides truth. Pollaky proved that openness does, if you know where to look. Public data is rarely neutral. Lesson 2. Networks reveal intent faster than individuals. People lie. Systems don't. They just move. They follow communication patterns, not personalities. And then lesson 3, language is a fingerprint. Repeated phrasing, preferred metaphors, timing, these create identifiable signatures. Holmes does this all the time, and so did Pollaky. And that's why modern OSINT owes more to Victorian newspapers than most people probably realise. Pollaky was so well known in Victorian England that audiences laughed when his name was dropped on stage. Just imagine a modern private investigator becoming a pop culture reference. That's how influential Pollaky was. He wasn't hidden, he was everywhere. So if Barton Wright taught Sherlock Holmes how to survive physical contact, Ignatius Pollaky taught him how to survive informational contact. How to read between lines, how to listen without being present, how to let networks expose themselves, because the smartest move, it isn't always confrontation. Sometimes it's the size of your observation. Next episode, we return to first principles, because the next real Sherlock wasn't a detective. He was the man who taught detectives how to think scientifically and gave them the language to do it.